Welcome to Let's Talk Church and Other Things. I am your host, Shirla, and today I am joined by my fill-in co-host, Tyandra.
Hello.
And our guest today is Miss Yualanda.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
That's good. Thanks for agreeing to come and speak with us on today. So Yualanda and I go back a long way. We went to school together. I was just talking before we started about we went to middle school together and we're late to class every day.
Every day.
Three of us walked in class late every day to the point where the teacher didn't even bother. We just went and sat down. But we always did our work. And,
That's right.
And we had good intentions. You know, her mom is the late, great Pastor Goldie Ricketts. She was the pastor of Mount Calvary Church on Prairie Avenue in Providence, Rhode Island. And myself coming from a background where my dad was an assistant pastor and then elevated to pastor of the church. So, you know, we were the PKs in the school. So we always had good intentions, but I just have to tell the story of one girl.
Oh, no.
Who always wore a dirty coat to school. And so we thought we were helping her out. We sent her a note and just asked her we was going to pay to get the coat cleaned. But they knew the note came from us. And it turned into a big deal.
Yeah, we got in trouble.
We got in trouble. But the moral of the story is it worked because the coat got cleaned.
Something good came out of it.
Something good came out of it.
Yes.
So we've always had good intentions. So here we are, old ladies now.
Yes.
And still trying to do the right thing. So we're here to talk to Yualanda about something that I feel that a lot of parents, whether in church or outside of church, just really have a hard time dealing with. And that is when their children transition from one gender to another. And I'm not necessarily speaking of going through with the surgery, but just identifying themselves as the opposite sex from which they were born. So with that being said, Yualanda's just going to share a little bit of her story in regards to one of her children.
So I have 4 children, 2 girls now and two sons. I guess originally I had 3 daughters and 1 son. Originally my child came out to me as gay first, as a teenager, which I thought was a phase, and it did not turn out to be a phase. Actually, later on, many, many years later, my child said, you know what, this is the way I've been feeling for years, and this is now how I have to live my life. I'm, transitioning from female to male. And I said, okay, you're going to have to give me some time. You're going to have to let me process. I mean, originally when she then told me that she was gay, again, like I said, I thought it was a phase. So being the PK that I am, we all prayed and everything and thought that it was going to go away. And it didn't. And so, at some point you accept it and you say, this is the life, and you kind of move on. And so transitioning was a whole other process of acceptance. Mm-hmm. So that's literally saying goodbye to just the appearance mm-hmm. of your child to a new appearance, because inside my child's the same person, same good character, kind, loving, same person, just now living her life now as a male. And so out of respect to his request to refer to him with male pronouns, mm-hmm. we do. I mean, it was just like when my granddaughter decided she didn't want to be called, or her mother named her anymore, she told us that she was changing her name. And so out of respect to her wishes, we call her what her new name is. So I think that because I know that there will be people that'll have a problem with saying he, or maybe have a problem with me saying he. And all I can tell you is that out of respect for my child's wishes, I do refer to him as he.
So how old was he when he came to you and said, I'm gay?
Yeah, he was probably about 15.
And so prior to that, had you ever seen him with like a date or anything?
Yes, but not. There were not a lot of dates. Prior to, there was like 2 people, and so. But even then, I just think that I kind of thought it was a phase. He was always athletic, always playing basketball or baseball or whatever sport that there could be to play. He was always playing those sports, and so he was never like a feminine. Never asked for dolls, nothing like that. It's always been he wanted robots and just things like that as far as toys concerned. Growing up.
So this started prior to the teenage years. Okay. And that leads me to ask Tyandra a question, because I know you work with young children. And do you see that in the age group that you work with, like toddlers or up to 5 years old? Do you see that some of them may be?
So I work with children from 3 to 5. Is considered preschool to pre-K. I have encountered a child that wanted to change their pronouns at the age of 4, and we did respect that. It is not hard, but a little bit difficult for the kids. You have to explain it a different way when you're explaining it to kids. But I have seen it at my age level.
Okay.
But then you also have to look at, because there are certain things that we have to, like, just because a boy goes into dramatic play and they're dressing up as a girl or they're playing with a baby doll, that may not be a sign of it, because we try to teach that, and through them playing with dolls, you teach empathy and how to take care of things. So you have to really know your child and look at the child for who they are and not for what they technically play in school. But there has been times where I've seen it in a child that is in my age group.
Okay. So Yualanda, you have 4 children. So what was the reaction of the other 3 siblings?
They probably knew before I did. I mean, because you know how siblings, they talk to each other before they actually talk to the parent. And so from the very beginning, I don't think we ever treated him any differently after, because I think my biggest conflict was not how I was going to relate to my child, who at the time was gay and then transgender. That's never been a conflict for me. The conflict was, how is the church going to look at me, because I embraced my child in every aspect of my child, every graduation that he had from high school, college, academy, just everything. And I've always embraced, and we've always embraced him. So I think they knew before I did.
And how did the church treat you?
Well, I haven't, you know what? I have to be honest with you. I have not had any negative experiences. I can't say I haven't had any negative experiences. There have been very few people that have not shown love here in Rhode Island. But I think that, there have been very few people that have not shown love.
That's good. And what about family members? Because sometimes family can be
I think that's where the issues have been, probably with family. But I have never been one to allow anybody to tell me how to love my children, no matter what it is that they do or whatever their lifestyle is or their choices are, because my feeling is this, that and I never wanted anybody to question my faith.
Right.
But I realized that my faith is between me and God. And God loves my child. God loves all of my children. He loves all of our children, no matter, what their life is, because Jesus said for us to love each other the way he loved us.
Right.
And so if God gave me these children, then he gave me the capacity to love these children and to be the parent that these children needed me to be.
Right.
And so if somebody else doesn't understand the fact that I love don't make me be a mama bear, because I can be, about all of mine. I can be, So I think that's the thing that I really want people to understand, is that it's okay to love your child. I don't care what the situation is.
Right.
God gave you that child. He gave you the
Right.
capacity to love that child. It's not a matter of what somebody else thinks about it or how they think about you. We have to find peace.
Exactly. And you said something a few minutes ago, which was very important, because it didn't change his character. Like, I can only speak from my own experiences having 2 children. You form that bond, like, as soon as you know you're pregnant.
It's true.
What kind of parent am I? What kind of mother am I going to be? Like, I got to make sure I bring them up in the right way. So that love is there before you even see them. I don't understand how people can turn it off because their child decides they don't want to identify no longer as the gender they was born as. I just don't understand that. Love is love.
It is.
And like you said, it does not change their character at all. Yep, the outward appearance may change, but the heart is still the same.
It's still the same. Right.
And I think that, a lot of fathers have a tough time dealing with it when their sons want to identify as her, she, her. I hope I'm getting this stuff right. Forgive me if I'm not. Because they expect their sons to be playing sports or, doing this or following in their footsteps and, being construction workers and getting their hands dirty. But you know what? That's still your child. It's still your child. And so I think it's important for people to hear you and hear your story, and how, in spite of everything, it never changed the love that you had for your child. And that's so important. So how did he feel knowing that he had to come to you and be like, okay, he's gay, but now he's going to take it a little further? How was that for him to come in and talk to you about it? And I probably should have had him here, and maybe I will have him and his wife, if they invite me over for dinner one more time.
He had been trying to prepare me for a while, I think, kind of telling me about how he saw himself, and then, how they dress differently, right? So he was dressing, very masculine, and, wearing men's clothes. And so I think he was really trying to prepare me for a while. And then we've always talked. We've always been able to communicate. We've always been able to, we've been able to be honest with each other. And I would say to him, I need you to just, be patient with me. Help me. I'm going to get there with you, but you got to give me patience. And so coming to me, I think the biggest thing would probably have been just not knowing, I guess, how I was going to not act or react negatively, but I think his concern was also the same thing, was knowing that we come from preachers and a strict Pentecostal upbringing, and how is that going to reconcile with his choice, and so we just talked through it, time and we just talked through it. And I think that's really important, is that people leave the lines of communication opened.
Right.
I never said, don't bring nobody home. Don't, you live your life. Don't let me see it. I never did that. You know why? Because my brother had to live his life separate from home. He couldn't bring it home. And that makes me sad when I think about that. But he didn't feel safe to bring that home, and so he didn't live his life, in front of my parents. I never want any of my children to feel like they can't be who they are in front of me.
Right. I forgot about your brother because so that type of situation where you can't bring it home or you feel like you can't because for whatever reason. I mean, back then, it really wasn't like, no. Back then, no. But it caused him, we didn't see him a lot.
No.
We didn't see him a lot.
No. And we're still extremely close. We remained close over the years. And when finally he did say to me, I was in my 40s when he finally said it to me that he was gay. I was like, I knew that all the time. Come on now, But I mean, I just never wanted my child to feel like he had to live his life, his truth outside of our family or outside of my vision or seeing. And I always wanted to be a part of it, and so I always will. Want to be a part of it. And that, I mean, it's a journey. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that, because when you have to try to reconcile what you've been brought up, to believe and what is, currently your reality, how do you reconcile that and still feel like, okay, well, I'm still saved. I'm still a woman of faith, and I still believe in Jesus, and yet my child is transgender, and I love my child.
Right.
I love my child, and so I just do believe that God allows us to love. I mean, that's the biggest thing, and I think that's the biggest thing with the church, because I know a lot of times, you hear, the first thing, people get up in the pulpit and they want to start preaching about homosexuality and this and that and this is that. And instead of, where's the love?
Right.
Where's the love? You're not changing anybody. You think they don't already know what the Bible says? You don't think that they don't already know what the conflict is? Of course they do.
Right.
So where's the love? How do we embrace everybody? Not just my child, anybody's child, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle. How do we embrace them and still know that we haven't done anything that compromises our salvation by embracing them? Right.
And it's so sad. I think leaders need really to be educated because they are very rude when they get over the pulpit with some of the things that they say. And, you could have someone sitting there that's conflicted. They don't even know, they're not sure if they really want to go over to the other side of the fence. But you're over there bashing them. So it's like, well, you know what? They already put me there. So I might as well just go there. And so, at the end of the day, like you said, God is love. And we as Christians, it's our job to exemplify his love. Absolutely. So if we can't embrace people for who they are, then what do you think God's going to say to us when we go stand before him?
Absolutely.
Not to have you speak for him, but how do you think that this has affected his relationship with God, or what does that look like?
Sean is I tell you, I think one of the most believing people that I know, he confessed with his mouth, believed in his heart, and that's what the Bible says that we need to do for salvation.
Right.
So the fact that, he is transgender has not prevented him from pursuing a relationship with the Lord. And so I think that we have, because a lot of times I think we think about, it's always only either homosexuality or people who are transgender that seems to be a big problem when people go to church and they may be living together, not married. They're not dogmatic about preaching about that, or, they know that, the deacon and the usher been carrying on together for years. You know what I'm saying?
And they're married to other
and
people.
they're married to other people. and or you got the one, who feel like they're perfect, but they forgot the fact that they claim, their sister's kids on their income taxes, knowing good and well they did not pay 50% of their expenses all year long. The one that can't tell the truth if the truth hit him in the face. So all of us, I'm just saying that all of us have something, know what I'm saying?
Something.
That we have to look at and say, you know what? I'm not perfect.
Right.
I don't have it all together. And so I can't sit here and throw stones at somebody else, because that's what, when they brought the woman to Jesus and said, oh, she's been sleeping with, all these people.
Husbands.
And, he was like, well, which one of y'all is perfect? You cast the first stone.
He that is without sin.
And so when he looked up and everybody was gone, and he said to the lady, so where's your accusers? They're gone. Why? Because they couldn't cast a stone either. So I think, we have to understand that. We all need to have grace and mercy, right? I need it. I certainly do, because I know I have my own issues. But I also know that I need to be merciful and graceful, right? I need to be able to minister mercy and grace to others.
Right. And that's what I like. We lead by example. So if you were to disregard your son, and then he sees you showing love to Tyandra, what kind of message is that sending?
Yeah.
My mind goes back to when we had a guest here some time ago. And one thing he said was, we would ask mom for sneakers or whatever. We couldn't get anything. But then mom would go to church and be buying for the other kids at the church. Mm-hmm. That charity begins at home and spreads itself abroad.
It's true. It is so true.
What are we doing, people? But yeah, I really feel that the leaders need to educate themselves, because suicide is on the rise. And you find out a lot of transgenders and homosexuals, they have enough going on just trying to be accepted or feel accepted. Mm-hmm. And then you go to church and it's like, okay, this should be my place of refuge, my place of peace. And you're making it worse. So you have these people leaving worse than what they felt when they came. And now they go home and it's like, well, what's the use? Because you almost make them feel like God doesn't love them.
Right.
That situation that's between them and God. Mm-hmm. And I remember someone saying to me, well, God made us all, so he knew I was going to be like this. And I had no response to that. Not that I was coming at the person, but they were just having a conversation with me. And I really had no response for that other than, you're right, he did make you. I mean, that's what we were taught. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He knew you when you was in your mother's womb.
That's right.
So that's what we were taught. So, God don't make no mistakes. People have to come off that seat of judgment. They do. And that's why there's a lot of exposing going on, and a lot of things that people preach against, you find out they're very much a part of.
Right. And a lot of times that's why they preach so vehemently against something. It's because somebody else decided that they were going to live their truth, and they are conflicted within themselves about their own sexuality sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I get it that, there are people who, like you take Donnie McClurkin, right? And he'll tell you about, him. But he made a choice. His choice, I don't, and I'm not an expert. I don't, I don't claim to be an expert or to know. I'm just saying, based on what I see in my conversations, I don't believe that somebody who is truly homosexual has always been or never been attracted to the opposite sex or whatever. Their choice is not whether or not they're homosexual. Their choice is, are you going to live your life as a homosexual, or are you going to live your life trying to please society and your family and live up to what others say that you should live? I believe that's the choice, because a lot of times, and there are people who consider themselves fluid and they can go back and forth and they just like people and whatever. That's different. I'm talking about somebody who's truly, because I am not homosexual. So I'm not going to be attracted to a woman. I don't care how many women you bring here. You can parade them around. It's not going to do nothing. I can't, So it's the same thing for someone who is not attracted to the opposite sex. They could be as beautiful or as handsome or whatever. You bring them, that's just not going to make them happy. Now, we've known people who were homosexual and gotten married, had families and children.
It didn't change.
And didn't change.
It didn't change. Some of them could do hair really well.
But I'm just saying, but they tried to conform, right? They tried to conform and to live a life that it would be pleasing in their eyes to God, to the church, to their families or whatever. They tried to conform, and it didn't work. Nope. Because they still end up, some of them.
Right.
I'm not going to say all of them, but some people still end up, carrying on these double lifestyles.
Which is dangerous.
It is.
That could be dangerous,
It is dangerous. It's very dangerous. I know somebody who lost their life behind something like that in Florida. And it's, I just never wanted that for my child. I just always wanted to be that mother to him that he needed me to be, and still being that mother to him that he needs me to be. And always, in anybody who says, "Oh, you say, you're condoning." I don't need to condone anything. My child is an adult, makes his own decisions, and I'm just, out of respect, will use the, male pronouns and refer to him as him. And that's just it. I mean, I just think that I know everybody has to do what's right for them, right? Everybody has to, handle things. I've had people say to me, "Oh, if that was me, if that was mine, I wouldn't do this and this and that and that."
Well, it ain't you. So that's just the bottom line. And you know what? I'd be shutting people down. Like, well, you know what? And who are you? First of all, who do you claim to be? Parenting, it doesn't stop. The love that a parent has for their child it just doesn't end. Like mine are 41, 35. And I still, at Christmas, they get gifts like they're still little kids. But you're always there. But again, especially when you're calling yourself a Christian, you would hope that your child sees something in you that would be like, wow, look at mom. Like throughout everything, she still supported me. She was right there for me. She has my back. And I'm hoping that even this episode will be a help to others, because I think there's a lot of people in the church, because there's more and more of it being seen in church. And I think there's a lot of people they're in denial.
Yeah, and I don't even know that it's so much more. It's just that, I think more and more people are trying to not just pretend, right? Like sweeps.
They're more,
right, and talk about them, behind their backs, or you'd have the musician or the choir director or somebody's always been gay in church, whether we want to accept it or not. Somebody's always been, and so whether we would always just deny it and act like they weren't when we knew that they were. So I think we're just getting into a time now where people are saying, like, let's not just act like people are not who they are.
Right.
And how can we love people where they are? Just right where they are. Just love them. And let God do the rest. The Bible says that we're supposed to let the wheat and the tare go together, and God is the one that's going to do separating in the end. We don't have to do that. We don't have to feel like we have to be so judgmental about everything and everybody. If they come in with the pants sagging down, if they come in, let them come. If they want to wear the pants sagging out, let them come. Let's love them. You know, I just don't. I think it's a lot when we try to do God's job.
Yeah. So, as a parent, was there ever a time where you were questioning yourself, where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better?
I mean, I think we all do, right, as parents.
Right.
Because, you know, and didn't necessarily have anything to do with his sexuality. I think it's just when, especially as a single parent, you know, when you're figuring, oh my God, you know, maybe if I had, you know, only done this or done that, you know, things would be different. But I don't think there was ever a time where I took it on and said, oh, this was because of something that I didn't do or didn't do right. I just think that, like I said, my biggest conflict was really to say, well, oh my God, what are the church people gonna say?
It's always those church people.
What is the family gonna say? You know,
so sad.
So yeah, I don't think. I mean, I had enough to take on as far as, you know, being a single parent, like, you know, blaming myself for a lot of other things that maybe could have gone differently, maybe if I had known. But, you know, they don't come with manuals. So, and then they're all different, you know, and, you know, all different personalities and everything. And so I think as a parent, we take a lot of, we take on a lot. I think we blame ourselves a lot, and we don't really give ourselves enough credit for. I did the best I could with what I had,
What you had.
with what I knew,
Right.
You know, and maybe, and I'm sure absolutely that there were things that I could have done differently and could have done better. I know for a fact there are.
That's for all of us.
But, you know, by God's grace and mercy, we're all here. You know, we're
Right.
still here, and so.
And Sean did very well for himself because didn't he graduate from law school as well?
Yep, graduated from law school, is a lawyer, you know, working in the community, helping, you know, working in his church. And so I just think, you know, I'm happy for him, you know, because I would not want him to try to conform to my wishes. Or the wishes of somebody else and not live a fulfilled life. So if this is your choice, then you live your life and live your life to the best of your ability. And any, you know, your relationship with the Lord is between you and him,
God.
certainly.
That's right. That's right. Wow. So what advice would you, well, before I ask that question, if you don't mind me asking, what was the dad's reaction to Sean?
I think at first when Sean said, you know, came out as gay, I think there was like some kind of, you know, there may have been a little pushback. But later on, his dad accepted him, called him son. Yep. So, you know, yeah.
Wow. Well, I watched that show, I Am Jazz. I love that show, but that show really has educated me. And a lot of people are like, you watch that show? Yep. And I, you know, and you know, she was born as a he, but you know, you look at the videos from when he was little, like 3-4 years old, in his birthday parties, he wore the girls' bathing suit. So, and I'm like, wow. So they really, and it educated me because I didn't believe that young a child could feel like, you know what, I'm not, you know, what I was born as. And now, you know, I was like, wow. So the show really educated me. So maybe some people need to do that as well. Just to be, you know, it's not like you're all into that. But I look at it for educational reasons, because to see what the parents went through, and then, you know, he finally had the surgery, you know, to become a full female, and, you know, then she went through depression, and I'm like, they go through a lot.
Yes.
And then she got accepted to Harvard in Boston, and you get death threats, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. but the depression that she went through because of trying to be accepted for who she is. And I'm like, it's nuts, but it educated me. So maybe that's what some people need to do. If you don't want, you leaders don't want to talk about it in church, watch I Am Jazz. Go back to the first season and watch it, because I think we all could use a little bit of education when it comes to that.
I think you made a good point too earlier when you talked about that the suicide rate is really high, and even when Sean was in law school, he lost one of his classmates to suicide, who was a transgender male, and unfortunately, he did not have the support of his family. So it was tough. It was tough for him. And I think, whether we want to, even acknowledge it or not, that there's even, we see that we have pastors and preachers and are committing suicide, and I'm not saying that they're all committing suicide because they're gay or whatever, but I'm saying that there's a lot of depression, some mental health issues that we want to always say are, oh, it's a spirit. It's
That's
it's
the devil.
that,
That ain't nothing but the devil.
When mental health is real, mental health challenges are real, and so and people can be helped if they acknowledge that they need the help and get the help, and but with people always wanting to blame the devil for everything, and everything's a spirit or it's a demon, then people don't get help,
And it's sad. I always say, if the pews could talk, what they would say about the person sitting next to you, because you never know what that person is going through. They could be dressed from head to toe.
True.
Have everything materialistic that they could want, and, just don't have peace of mind. And when the church lacks discernment, that's why people are just like,
that's true,
falling by the wayside. They really are. And it's sad when you see people that even hold positions in ministry and stuff, and they commit suicide, because now you got the world looking at you like, okay, well, where was your God?
Right. That's true.
And so it's the church has just become a place where it's so hard to really open up about who you are and what you're going through. It's that a lot of people are just burdened.
Right.
And it's like something has to be done. Something has to be done before he comes. Something has to be done. He said they'd be a great falling away. He didn't say they would be a great killing away, because people are just, and suicide is an unforgiven sin. So you got all these people just.
It's sad.
It is sad, So if you could give advice to someone who may listen to this episode, and hopefully they will, what would you say to the parent?
I would say communicate, like talk to your child, because then you can get a better understanding of what your child is feeling, what they're going through, how they need you to support them. And then you can also communicate to your child how you're feeling, what you're going through, and the support that you think you're going to need in order to get through it. Because it's a two-way street. It's not just, I love my child and but I still had a journey to go through. And so each one of our journeys is going to be different, right? But I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of talking to my child. And I just think that that's the best thing that you can do is to follow your heart. Follow what, and your heart should lead you to your child, right? Your heart should lead you to, want to do what's best for your child.
Right.
And if you're fighting that it doesn't, and you're conflicted, then I get counseling. There's nothing wrong with getting counseling. Try to, figure it out in a way that's going to be healthy for you, healthy for your child, healthy for your relationship with your child, and shut out the noise. Don't worry about what other people may say or may be saying, because in the end, when you lay down at night, you lay down with yourself, and it's what's in your heart and what's in your mind,
Right.
not worrying about what somebody else says. At the end of the day, no one else has a hell or a heaven to put you in.
Right.
So
Right. Do you have anything to say or add or ask?
I just find it crazy, I guess, that I'm able to teach my age group, which is 4 turning 5s, how to have acceptance and to allow their friends that they're playing with to have their truth. But there's adults that can't do that. They can't let go and let that person be their true self, whatever that may be. It may be that they may transition to another gender. It may be that they like the same sex, or it may be something completely different. But I just find it very odd that a child that is 4 years old can learn that, but adults, we struggle with that like a lot. And then I would also say, as an educator, like we have to be there too with the parents and know what's going on too. Sometimes if home is not accepting but school is, they still have that safe place. And that's one thing that I had to do as an educator, because I didn't, growing up in a church, I didn't quite understand it, or maybe even believe that a 4-year-old can say that they feel different and stuff. But I seen it, and they can feel different. And seeing people that I grew up in my age group that have suffered from it, that wanted to commit suicide, they won gratefully, and right now they're doing good. But there's been that turmoil in there, and to have a person, simply because you can't live your truth, and then all it takes is one person that's going to say, no, live your truth and live it the way you want to do it. So I really commend you on that, because there is a lot of people out there that do not have that support system, and they need it. So I really do commend you for that.
thank you.
Yay. Very well said. Well, I would like to say thank you for coming and sharing your story. We may have you on again.
Well, thanks for having me.
when we, because there's certain topics that you can't let die.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to, every few months remind people, because, this is happening on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure tomorrow some child will probably come out to their parent. And, how is the parent going to accept it? But the parents need to know that it's okay. That's still your child.
Still your child.
They can still go on to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever else they choose to be.
Absolutely.
It's just your job as a parent to love them, meet them where they are, support them in what they do, and continue to be that example as a parent. Don't get with your crew and your family and your friends and talk about your child.
Mm-mm.
Don't do that.
Mm-mm.
Don't do that. Because, see, if they don't get the support from the people that are supposed to love them, where do they go?
That's right.
That's why a lot of them end up in promiscuous situations. They end up in dangerous situations. If I can share a story without dropping names, I saw a young man And so the parents can act like they were in denial, but I know what I was seeing. So I had to take the young man and take him out to dinner and let's talk. And I said, listen, let me just say this. I am not here to talk about your sexuality, because that's your preference. And that's between you and God. But because I care about you, I am here to talk about your being reckless.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to be careful. I just want you, that's all I want, is for you to be careful. And, parents just, at the time they were in denial. I don't know where they are now, but they were in denial. But if I see somebody in that situation, and let me just put this out there to others, if you think like Yualanda and if you see a child that is struggling with who they really are, or not even so much a struggling, really being who they really are, but seeing that it's not being accepted at home, there's nothing wrong with pulling them aside and just trying to give them a word or two of encouragement. Because, again, like we previously stated, suicide that's real. And a lot of them do. I had a nephew. I'm not sure what he identifies himself as. But But yeah, he's been suicidal. He's been in Butler. And it's like he, walking down the street and people throw stuff out the car at him that like, it's just crazy. So they have to go through enough with people they don't know.
Right.
So at least if the people that they know can embrace them and accept them for who they are, that's all they want.
Right.
I'm tell you, I have some gay friends. They're the best people to be around. We have the most fun, and they are who they are.
Right.
I don't have to worry about them acting one way in church and then leaving church and being a whole nother. I'm like, yo, aren't you the person that was just shouting up there and all that stuff? Yeah, that. But anyway, so I want to say thank you so much
Thank you
for agreeing to come up and just talk to us about your story, because that was your story. And I hope that it will open the doors for others. You don't necessarily have to come on the podcast and do it, but to feel like you can go and talk to somebody and share your story or encourage someone, or maybe someone needs to start a group where the parents can come together because they really don't know how to deal with it and they're having a tough time. So maybe someone can start a support group, something, because at the end of the day, your children still need to be loved, and they need to be loved by you.
That's right.
So, I would also say that if there is a listener that is listening to this and you do need support and you do need someone to listen to, like, we are not experts at Let's Talk Church and other things, but we are definitely people that want to help others. So if resources are needed, you can email us, you can DM us and let us know, and we will try to get you to them services or those resources that you may need as a person, as a family, as a parent. We would be glad to help you get the resources you need, and even if it is a listening ear, we are also willing to be that as well.
Absolutely, because we're not judgmental. That's not what this podcast is about. We just like to keep it real. But when we want to help, and it's like, church people say, if I can help somebody along the way, then my living is not in vain. Well, if I can just help one person, one child, one parent, someone, then it was all worth it.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, Yualanda, again, thank you so much for coming and doing this for us. And someone may want to reach out to you personally. So can you give us your socials where they can find you at on Facebook or Instagram?
Sure. I mean, I'm on all of them, I think. Facebook is just going to be Yualanda Madyun King. And Yuli Cakes is where you'll find me on Instagram and Twitter. I think those
so Yualanda Madyun King. I know how to spell that, but for people that may not know how to spell it and they're trying to find you on Facebook, or
it's YUALANDA, M as in Mary, ADYUN as in Nancy, KING. Yualanda Madyun King is Facebook, and then Yuli Cakes, YULYCAKES, is where you'll find me in Instagram and in Twitter, and that's because I still bake.
You still do the baking?
Yes. So
that's good.
So if you need cakes, you can hit her up about that too.
Hit up Yuli Cakes. There will be some saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost cakes,
filled with butter and sugar.
Miss Ty, where can they find you?
Tylen Roderick on Facebook and Top Tier __T on Instagram.
Top Tier __
T
on Insta. Yeah. And you can find me on Facebook, Sherla White. On Insta is MS _Sherla. And please feel free to drop us an email. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you would like to be a part of the podcast. And coming in March, we're taking it a little further. So we will not only be on the podcast, but God willing, we will be doing a public broadcasting station as well. Awesome. So we're excited about that. So you can drop us an email at ltc.otpodcast@gmail.com. And you can go on my Facebook page and find the link to our YouTube page. We are on YouTube. So again, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us and to have this discussion with us. And we really hope that something was said in this episode that will really touch someone and make someone think about, you know what, they're right. It's time for me to do better when it comes to this situation and my children. So until next time, we wish you peace and blessings. God bless.